So
But
coincidence.
that's Don Giovanni, though.
Don Giovanni.
Is it really? That's who it is?
Yeah, yeah.
The opera, maybe.
But of course, since effects precede causes, it must also be J.D. Vance.
I love it, Roy. I love when you say effects precede causes. Okay,
I
listen.
got that from you.
I know. Duncan, Decio, Janice, Keith, Roy, Harp, Peter, Jack, Sarah, Brandon. Did I leave anyone out? Oh, myself.
No, who's the
Oh, there's
last one?
Bruce. Okay,
Who's the last one?
I'm gonna put Bruce and me in. Hold on.
Okay, and you need to tell me who the last reader is so I know when to come back.
I'm gonna tell
Jerry,
you.
I don't see a Peter in our cluster of people here. Oh, there you are. Sorry about that.
Bruce.
You were very quiet down there.
Okay. There's the new reading list. It's the same, but I added Bruce after Brandon and Jerry after Bruce. So some more people will probably jump in, but if we're ready to go, page 12, Duncan, you can go when you want.
All right, off we go to the races.
Wait, somebody's making a lot of noise. Sounds like a faucet.
Sounds like a party.
Okay, somebody did. Okay, so yeah, unmute when you want, and Duncan, you can go when you want, and thank you all for
Okay,
being.
I'm going now.
Okay.
For in the byways of high improvidence, that's what makes life worth leaving, and the world's a cell for sitters to sit in. Let young
Women run away with the story and let young men talk snooks behind Butler back. She knows her night's duty well.
While Luntum sleeps. Did ye save any tin? Says he. Did I what? With a grin, says she. And we all like a married Anne because she is myrrh.
Scenary, though the length of the land lies under liquidation, Plut, and there's ne'er a hairbrow nor an eye bush on this glout.
First place.
Bruce,
No, I'm sorry. I've jumped the gun.
Brush face of hair shuft, water welter, she'll loan a Vesta and hire some peat, and sarch the shores her cockles to heat, and she'll
Do all a turf woman can to piff the business on, paff to puff the blasoness on, puff, puff, and even if Humphrey shall fall frumpty.
Times as awkward again in the beard's boussalon. Of all our grand remonstrancers, there'll be igs for the breckers come to mourn.
Am sunny side up with care. So true it is that there's where a turnover, the tay is wet too. And when you think you catch sight
of a hind, make sure you're cocked by a hin. Then as she is on her behaviour job of quinon's bandy,
brooding for firstlings and taking her tithe, we may take our review of the two mounds to see nothing of the himples here as at else.
Where by sixes and sevens, like so many eagles and colleens sitting around, sent reached and some Patrick in their swisher.
Wish satins in their taffy tights, playing Wharton's Folly at a tree purty on the planko in the perk. Stand up, Mycos.
make straight for Minas by order Nicholas Proud. We may see and hear nothing if we choose of the short-legged Bergens off.
Cork Hill, or the Bergamores of Arbor Hill, or the Bergambos of Summer Hill, or the Bergincellis of Miser Hill, and the country bossed Burgons of Constitution through every crown has its. Oh, sorry.
Every crowd has its several tones, and every trade has its clever mechanics, and each harmonical has a point of its own. Olaf's on the rise, and Ivers
on the lift, and Citrix places between them. But all they're scraping along to sneeze out a likelihood that will solve
and salve life's robulus rebus, hopping round his middle like kippers on a griddle as he lays dormant from the mackerel board
Of hold hard to the microberg of P. de Poudre, behoove this. Sound
Back,
Irish.
back to the top line, Jerry.
Oh, yeah, for in the byways of high improvidence, that's what makes life.
Work leaving. And the world's a cell for sitters to sit in. Let young women run away with the story and let young Mim talk smooth.
Behind the butler's back, she knows her night's duty while London sleeps. Did you save any tin, says he. Did I what?
With a grin, says she, and we all like a merry Dan because she is mercenary, though the length of the hand lies under liquidation.
Flute, and there's ne'er a hairbrow nor an eyebush on this glaubrous face of hairshoofed water welter, she'll loan a vesta and
Bruce.
Oh, it's me?
Yeah.
Hire some heat and sarch the shores her cockles to heat, and she'll do all a turf woman can to piff the business on, paff, to puff the
Blaziness on. Poof, poof. And even if Humpty shall fall frumpty times as awkward again in the beard boom saloon of all our grand
Remonstrancers. There'll be eggs for the breakers coming to morning. Yeah. Sunny side up with care. So true it is that there's wears
Turnover the day is wet, too, and when you think you catch sight of a hind, make sure, but you are cocked by a hind.
Then, as she is on her behaviorite job of acquaintance bandy, fruiting for firstlings and taking her tithe, we may take our review
Of the two mounds, to see nothing of the himples here, as at elsewhere, by sixes and sevens, like so many he-gills and colleens.
sit in a room, scent breeched, and some potrique in their swish-a-wish satins and their taff-taff tights, playing Wharton's Folly.
At a tree purty on the planko in the perk. Stand up, Mikos. Make straight for Minas. Be Minas, by order Nicholas Proud. We may see
And hear nothing if we choose of the short-legged Bergens off Cork Hill, or the Bergamores of Arbor Hill, or the Bergagamow balls up
Of Summerhill, or the Bergensellies of Misery Hill, or the country bossed Bergons of Constitution Hill, though every crowd has its
Several tones, and every trade has its clever mechanics, and each harmonical has a point of its own. Olaf's on the rise, and Ivers
on the lift, and Citrix places between them, but all they're scraping along to sneeze out a likelihood that will solve.
and salve life's Robulus rebus, hopping around his middle like kippers on a griddle as he lays dormant from the macroborg.
of hold hard to the microberg of Pied de Poudre behoove this. Bravo, people. That was amazing.
Yay.
Yeah, everybody is a star, as Sly Stone saying, and we're having some hot fun in the summertime. So, Bruce, why don't you tell us what the heck is page 12 about? Is there any content here?
Well, the content is basically that this is the most of this is given over to a description of what Anna Livia is doing, but this is a pretty good example of what Joyce is doing with Dublin, which is the people are in the landscape. There's a whole passage towards the end of hills and mountains and so forth. They all constitute the landmass that is Humphrey. And the floods and the waters and so forth that are referred to are the domain of Anna, I think. That's what I get from it.
Beautiful. Let me ask you a question, and Roy, you can pipe in, or anybody else. just to give us a summary before we go hand and foot and really dig in deep. Bruce, do you think Joyce invented biomimicry? That is, the guy who invented Velcro saw it in a plant, and then he went and so we've done this throughout the history of humans. We mock or mimic nature to invent something. So wasn't Joyce, in a way, he was doing biomimicry, wouldn't you say?
Can you point to something that indicates?
Well, that she becomes a river at the end of the book.
She's the river at the beginning of the book.
Well, that's what I mean. She's a river, so that's biomimicry.
She is, it seems to me she's all forms of water.
Well,
including the flood that that sort of took over the landscape early on.
well, Joyce says my art does not mimic nature. Nature mimics my art. So he was very modest about that.
In the wake, he says that?
No, he says he doesn't say it in the wake. He says that's in Elman somewhere.
My arse, say the line again.
My art does not mimic nature, does not imitate nature. Nature imitates my art. So
I actually think the wake is Joyce's attempt to create a world the same way that God created the universe. I mean, it's sort of a contest between Joyce and God.
Well, he compared himself to the demiurge.
I really think the wake is a world made of words. All the characters are words.
Yeah.
All the situations are words, and it proliferates just by changing a letter or the order of letters or so forth. Joyce discovered a mechanism for building a world. So in every case, what you're looking for is a structure that he's building. I don't know if it's biomimicry or not, but
it's almost reverse anthropomorphizing.
Master builder.
It's putting the form, the human form, on a landscape or in a landscape.
Right.
Well, and you also could compare the passage in French that gets quoted in French intact and then is distorted various places about how the vegetation of a landscape is really its permanence. It lasts from the time of Columella till now, in contrast with all of the foam of comings and goings that we
empires
is important on top of the landscape.
Yeah.
This documentary on Venice street musicians just got put on YouTube. You might want to watch it if people are interested. It's called The House Band. And it's all my friends who played on the boardwalk for many years. It's really a pro doc. It's good. And the kid who plays drums, the first opening scene, he says, the oldest sound in the world is wind, and the second oldest sound is the ocean. And he says, that's so cool. We're playing music right next to the ocean. I says, that's Finnegan's Wake.
What's his name if his wife is the water?
ALP.
Yeah. So what is he then?
Mountain.
Mountains?
The mountain.
Yeah. Not anything else, just mountains.
Well, he's everything, but one of the
isn't he Hothhead all the way down to the mountains?
Giant. But this page
Decio's raising his hand, but Roy, you're supposed to explain 12, but let Decio go.
This page is an overview of the city and its hills, and then we finish with these many hills and that, and so this is Dublin in the next page. So this is Dublin.
Yeah, so this is Dublin. Yeah, good. Okay, hold on. Okay, go ahead, Jack.
Doesn't anybody want to talk about sex, for God's sakes?
No.
I mean, three quarters of this page has to do with sex, having sex, all kinds of sex, all the aspects of sex.
Have we covered that already?
I'd say 7/8 of the book is about sex.
Yeah. And towards the end, all those hill things are, according to my notes, are actually streets in Dublin.
Yeah.
Constitution Hill is a street. There's a number of other streets with those names.
And this Constitution Hill also hills, Arbor Hill, Cork Hill, Summer Hill.
Oh, wait, let's
Madison.
dissect this line by line, but Roy, did you want to add anything
Well,
else?
actually, I mean, I see a lot of the death of the father, HCE specifically, or the downfall of the father, where he's compared to Humpty Dumpty who falls off the wall, and there's a reference to the Grand Remonstrance, which was Parliament. Parliament's blow against King Charles I, but a lot of the wake is about the struggle of Parliament against kingship, and HCE is usually the king who is going to fall. So.
Very good. Okay, let's go to the first line. The byways of high improvidence, that's what makes life. That's pretty straightforward. Anybody want to tell me what's going on in the first line? Anything to add?
Well, there's a book that Joyce liked called "Is Life Worth Living," which I think he thought was kind of amusing. And he turned that into was Liffey worth leaving? Was it worth it for him to leave Dublin?
You mean that's a self-help book that came out?
Yeah, it's kind of a self-help book from the 1800s, or is life worth living? No. What if they say no? What would you do?
Roy, you go into the bookstore and you ask, "Where's the self-help books?" And the clerk goes, "Wouldn't that defeat the whole purpose?" Okay, who wanted to add to that first line or something?
Well, I think we ought to talk about the bottom of the preceding page where we've focused in on a woman leaving the home against prohibition and tied that up with the story of Isolde and with the Trojan War, and therefore with Helen of Troy, and also with women's uncontrollable reproductiveness. Her birth is uncontrollable, 4 lines from the bottom of 11.
Wow.
We've just been focused on all that before we get to that first line with its byways. And of course, the woman leaving is taking a byway.
Keith, it's so good to have you here. You're doing Camelot.
In fact, wayward girl is an old phrase and trope, right? The wayward girl is the dangerous girl who's not under any man's father's control and is going to corrupt the community and spread venereal disease.
Mm-hmm.
That's the presidential prediction, Camelot. Okay.
And they spelled a romping girl. What was it?
Okay, now we got work leaving and the world's a cell for critters to CIT in. Go ahead, Jerry.
I was just gonna, I was gonna pick up from the last line into the next, because that's where we get life becomes life work.
Yeah.
So the line break does some work there. And I guess I'm reading it a little more impressionistically. I don't have the kind of background in this text that others do, but I'm thinking more in tonal terms. Byways. I get a kind of sense of loneliness and desolation out on the byways of high improvidence. And high is interesting to me as a modifier of improvidence. It's sort of like, improvidence in its most exalted state, which seems kind of not oxymoronic at least. That's what makes life work. And of course, here's Joyce's great last work of his life. And I'm thinking in terms of life work leaving behind the life work, leaving life as he nears the end of his life's work. And the world's a cell for sitters to sit in. And I think there's an allusion to it. There's a trope that goes back at least to the Renaissance that the world's a prison. It's in Hamlet. It's in one of Thomas More's Latin epigrams. So those are just some of the associations that are.
No, Jerry, that's how we differ from other Finnegan's Wake groups. We want people to tell us how the words make them feel. Anybody can read every Joyce book and figure out what's going on. And we welcome that. We love it when people do the scholarship. But that's what did you say at the end there? It spurred something else.
The idea that the world is a prison.
Okay, that's Sun Ra, the jazz shaman. Sun Ra said everybody's in prison, but Sun Ra's jail's the best prison. And if you ever been to a Sun Ra concert or heard him on his music, it is totally liberating. It's the most liberated music in the history of the world. He's like Joyce of jazz. His horn section has been together longer than any other jazz horn section in the history of jazz, longer than Count Basie, longer than Duke Ellington, and it's still going. In the leader, even though Sun Ra died, Marshall Allen is still leading the band, and he's 100 years old.
Oh boy.
Peter, we can't. Oh,
Peter, you're on mute.
Peter, you're on mute if you're talking to us. He might be talking to someone else. Okay. Anybody else on the first two lines?
Well, I just thought, the idea that the world of the universe or the body is a prison, that's a very Gnostic idea. So
And the word is a cell for sitters to sit in.
Yeah. S. Okay,
Or
Bruce.
sighters to sight in.
To sight. Good. Okay,
I
Bruce.
pronounce that. I say it as chit.
Chit.
Yeah.
Okay, Bruce.
Stop that, Roy.
Yeah, I was gonna.
It's a family discussion.
I didn't say, I said CHIT.
Oh, to shit in. Yeah.
Chit.
Oh, chit. C-H-I. What is
CHIT. Come on, what do you think I'm saying?
Okay, Bruce, I think you could scoot in now.
Yeah, I just wanted to recall what Decio had said, which is this is Joyce's portrait of a city, and it's a cell if you regard that as a prison cell, but it's also a living cell that is the building block for cities. It's the human beings that are occupying this concentration of activity.
Oh, yeah.
In tremble is how you zitter, Z-I-T-T-E-R is German for tremble. So you tremble to sit in. Let young, why do you spell women that way?
Because they act on a whim.
Oh, right. Run away with the story and let young men. Why is men M-I-N?
Because they're minimal.
There to the women, right?
Talk smooth behind the butler's back.
The beggar.
The beggar's back. That's German again. He's on a German kick here.
Well, working off of what Bruce was saying, that this is about the city. I mean, the city is where you can live with high improvidence, as opposed to in a small town where everybody's watching you and knows you and what you're doing. But in a city, there are highways and byways everywhere, and men or women can slip out and go lots of different places with nobody know what the hell they're doing. So they can live the life of high improvidence.
Good.
Find yourself a city to live in.
Who said that?
Heads. Oh, yeah.
Talking Heads.
Oh, Talking Heads. David Burns, a fluent freak. Okay, Bruce.
Yeah, this is the situation in the park all over again with the young men behind the butler's back, and away with the story, whatever they're doing in front of him. There's two sides to every story, as Joyce just said on the other page.
Yes.
But this primal scene is him looking at the women, is HCE looking at the women and being threatened by the soldiers behind him. And also he's a bottler. He's the bartender.
So it's the two girls and the three guys, three soldiers.
Yeah. She knows her night's duty while London sleeps. So that's while London sleeps. Can anyone hum a few bars of that song?
You're Kevin Byrne here.
London's burning.
Okay, but why does he quote while London? She knows her night's duty while London sleeps. So she quotes a song title. What's the night's duty? Is she referring to ALP's duty?
No, it's a joke. She's once again, she's running around. She's a improvident young lady. And she knows her night's duty.
Oh,
She's
NIGHT.
trying to go do her duty to the night, during the night.
Right.
Mhm.
Is this the lines you're talking about, Jack?
Absolutely. And it gets better and better.
X.
Did you save any tin? What's that? Anything?
Any money?
money?
Any
money?
money? Eddie money?
Any money?
Any money.
2 tickets to paradise.
It's insane.
Did you save any money? Says he. Did I what? With a grin, says she. And that's not gibberish. That's 2 straight lines.
There you
Okay.
go. Now you can start your index now. Write them down, Jerry. You got a book to write.
And we all like a married man because she is
A married Anne.
Married Anne. That's Anna. Is that Anna?
Oh, we all like married ALP because she is
married Anne.
Well, how does she make her money?
Because she is mercenary.
She's
she makes the money.
She makes her money as a mercenary?
Well,
yeah, she likes money. That's why she's a mercenary.
Because she's a mercenary.
She knows her
Mercenary song of 1925 also.
What's that?
There was a pop song in 1925, Mercenary Mary, according to the book by Bowerly, the tables of songs in it.
You mean Picking Up the Airs, that book? Yeah. That's an amazing book if you guys don't have it. It tells you a lot of the songs that are in the wake.
What book?
Picking Up the Airs, AIRS.
Wow.
It's a book about songs in wake. Okay, very good, Keith. Thank you. And though the length of the land lies under liquidation. What's that?
Liquidation of debit, because there is he saves some money.
It's also a flood myth. The flood myths. There are a lot of flood myths in the wake, and this one, they're going to get to Ymir's body and the universal flood in the Norse mythology, where the world was made out of
and the deluge, the flood.
The body of Ymir, who the hair of the trees and his eyebrows became grass. That's according to McHugh.
Wow, so this is flood myths that these floods didn't happen, or it's actually they did happen.
Yeah, well, I mean, there were a lot of. I mean, Noah is not the only flood myth. All different cultures had their own flood myths.
I see. Now, why is that word flute in parentheses? Why is it have an exclamation point? And what does it mean? Flute.
Flute is an instrument in French, let's say. Flute.
Oh. It's an expletive somehow, it says.
Flute.
I don't know how.
There is lots of musical instrument in the bottom of this page.
Seems like, given the context, it's also punning on flood somehow.
Yeah, I think so. Flood. Flute.
Well, is flute a flood in German? I mean, it says German. Yeah.
Well, no, it says in McHugh, it says FLUT is German.
But is it German for what? Is it German for
flood? That's what it does.
Flood. Yeah.
It is? Okay. But Jack,
I would imagine flood.
But back to you, Jack, is flute referring to the penis?
Absolutely. I mean, is there any doubt?
Is there any doubt?
All
I
roads
was
lead
waiting for you to get there,
somewhere.
actually.
All roads lead to the flute. It's Jethro Tull. Okay, so now we got, and there's ne'er a highbrow nor an eye bush on this guacamole, blah blah.
Glabrous. Not guacamole. Glabrous.
So what is this? Ne'er a hairbrow nor an eye bush.
Well, that was the Norse myth where Ymir was a giant, and then after the flood, the new world was created out of his body, and his hair became the trees, and his eyebrows became the grass. But Joyce transposes eyebrow and hairbrush.
Wow.
Yeah, it should be eyebrow and hair bush. Yeah.
Or eyelash.
You should have said lash.
Eyebrow and hair eyelash.
In the face, so he doesn't say place, he says face. Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, of this
The glabrous face of Erchut.
which is German for mastery. This is all German words. And then what to
words.
They don't translate what to welter. What's that?
Hirsute. Actually, hirsute is very close to hirsute. And hirsute is actually quite hairy.
Yeah.
Right. In place of hirsute, what a welter. What's that?
What a world.
What a world.
What a world. What a world.
It's Louis Armstrong. What a wonderful world.
Margaret Hamilton.
What a world.
Wicked Witch of the West, dying.
Yeah.
I dated her niece when I was in college.
Oh my God.
Hey, you know,
Did she have green skin?
Was she?
No. But my girlfriend? No, she did not.
Okay.
She cast a spell on you?
Actually, a house fell on her, huh?
Margaret Hamilton's
Yeah.
That's
there it
cool.
is. There's nothing more to that story.
Does she have an aversion to water?
Hamilton, the mathematician.
Very resourceful. You liquidated her.
Oh yeah.
Land under liquidation.
The best story I've heard about Finnegan's Wake is John Waters, the movie director, rooted for the Wicked Witch. And he turned out okay, you know. How many people rooted for the Wicked Witch? Nobody.
I was too scared.
Boris Johnson said his favorite character is the mayor in Jaws. He identified.
Water welter, though, is itself a very good word for a flood.
Right. There you go.
Yeah, welter is a great word.
It's a mobbing of the waters together.
So she loaned a Vesta and hired some peat and sarched the shores her cockles to heat. That sounds like some
I think Peter's gonna say something.
Oh, Peter, go ahead.
Yeah, it does sound like that, Jerry. A Vesta is a brand of matches. Vesta Swans, where every smoker had them in England. And so we begin this bit here about she'll loan a Vesta and hire some peat. Peat moss was the poor person's coal. You could dig it in the bog down the way and leave it to dry, and then it would burn very slowly and smoothly during the day, which would actually allow you to put something like oats or some other stew on a fire that would never really cause it to boil, but it would cook all day, thus saving someone from having to tend the fire, and that person would be allowed to work when otherwise they would be occupied with the fire. And then you've got this do-all a turf woman, and a turf woman would be someone who cuts turf or lives by the fire of cut turf. And then you've got this piff and paff and puff and blazes, all references to smoke and fire. And of course, shores or cockles on the heat. Poor people used to eat barnacles and mussels and other bivalves on the shore And one way to eat them was to cook them in salt water in a brine, and that was quite tasty and nutritious and cheap.
Sort
And
of
peat
like
was also also used to make whiskey, and it flavored whiskey.
Wow.
And there's the publican reference.
The cockles. The cockles.
But Peter, what you described was like the invention of the crock pot. But then it sounds like either an advertising slogan or a line from a poem, you know.
It's a nursery rhyme.
A nursery rhyme. That's what it sounds like. Yeah.
Or a ballad. It's almost ballad meter.
Is it
She'll-
valid?
She'll loan a Vesta and hire some peat and sarge the shores her cockles to heat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they
Plus, I
say
hate to say that, but the word cockle also suggests the word cock. I do hate to say that, but
So a rooster, in other words.
somebody
No
had
one
to say it.
believes that
You're
you
right.
hate
That
to
wasn't what I
say
had in
that.
mind.
You don't have to hate to say it. Celebrate it, young
I
man.
celebrate it.
Well, you've got the wayward girl again. What is she
Yeah.
doing
Mhm.
searching the shore? What's she searching for, really?
Yeah.
Cockle?
Okay, wait,
Mm,
Bruce and then Sarah.
Well, what I get from this whole section is that he's sound asleep. He's underwater. She's dashing around on the surface trying to keep the business together. So I don't know what her business is, whether she sells seashells down by the seashore or what, but it just sounds like it's her job during the night is to keep the little pieces of the business going.
But you mean the business of being running the bar or some other business?
The inn.
The inn, yeah.
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 she's also got to nurture her children and keep reproducing. So it's like
Yeah. Okay, Sarah, what do you got?
I think the cockles and the mussels references Molly Malone, which is the statue in Dublin.
Mhm.
A great song.
Good.
Alive, alive,
I
oh.
like that.
you sing it for us.
Yeah, can you sing a little?
I don't remember. I don't know it off by hand. I don't. Can anybody else sing it?
Cockles and mussels, alive,
Alive,
alive.
alive, oh.
All right. Well, good try.
And the Dubliners call that the
Keep your
tart
day
with the
job.
cart.
Say it again, Jack.
Yeah.
The Dubliners call that statue the tart with the cart.
The tart with the
Molly Malone is pushing her cart with cockles and mussels.
Yeah.
Don't
There's
forget
one
the
with a-
floozy and the jacuzzi.
Yeah, the floozy in the
Floozy in the jacuzzi, yeah. The prick with the
AOC,
stick.
right?
Floozy in the jacuzzi. I like that. Okay. Now,
I think
go ahead, Jerry.
Yeah, I was just going to go back to this business of feeling. I don't know if I'm curious to see if other people might react this way. And so we've talked about coming up on half the page, and the first quarter of the page and the second quarter to me have a very different feel. I think that first quarter seems much more urban. It's London, while London sleeps. Yeah, I mean, it refers to London sleeping. And then it moves into this, more, the life of the turf woman. And it's complicated. On the one hand, it's the life of the turf woman. It seems more open and free in a way by the ocean. And yet at the same time, all we're hearing about is all the work that she has to do. I mean, I can read that as idyllic because I'm sitting in my comfortable dining room. But it does seem, this sort of tension between, a kind of bucolic beauty and the difficulty of the work that she has to do, digging the turf and what have you.
It does mention though that the turf woman is turf is another slang word for prostitution. And that they have a puff. So later there, she'll do all a turf woman can do to piff the business on, to puff the blaziness on. So a puff is also a brothel.
Ooh, wow.
Puff
But
is
also she's like a little bit like Isis and Osiris, where she's picking up the pieces after Osiris is dismembered. Like ALP steps in and And when Humpty falls and breaks into different how many fragments, she's there to put them back together.
Yeah, well, except in this case, she's able to find the cockles.
Yeah, I thought that was a suspicious oversight on ISIS's part.
This is Humpty Dumpty is an egg.
What?
Humpty Dumpty is an egg.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Eggs for breakers.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Why you say while HCE lies sleeping, AOP lights a fire and makes breakfast. Eggs sunny side up. That is the next lines.
Right.
But that's also like the end of Ulysses, where Molly is going to get Bloom eggs for breakfast.
Yes.
Breakfast in bed.
Yes. Yes.
He reasserts his whatever in the household.
But I wanted to go what Peter was reviewing, the P words: path, puff, pof, pof, because PUFF is PAFFEN is to smoke in German, but there's several variations on those P words.
But puff in Germany, in Hamburg, is a open bar.
Right. That's what
Peter in the street. Ripperbahnstrasse. Very famous. Puff.
Go ahead, Janice.
What's frumpty in line 12? Why is that? What does it mean? I mean,
Humpty.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah, Humpty. Frumpty times. Oh, well, I just wondered.
If Humpty, she'll fall frumpty.
Frumpty times.
Yeah, well.
I was wondering about that too, Janice. I mean, again, as we've talked about before, if all he wanted us to think of was Humpty Dumpty, he would have just written Humpty Dumpty, but he didn't. Frumpty, It has the word frumpy, in it. Yeah, that's part of what I'm hearing there. I'm getting one thumbs up, I notice.
But it's an adjective. So Humpty fell frumpty times. Keith, what were you going to say?
Well, this goes along with the ideas that others have mentioned about her keeping the business going. Even if he collapses, there'll be eggs in the morning.
Yeah.
But also, I think we ought to reflect on the stance and schema underlying the voice of the narrator here, which has been a sort of collective voice. We are seeing things and we are observing things on the preceding two pages, and we'll be back to what we think in the next paragraph. So there's some kind of collective vision of what this woman is like being communicated by all these choices here, illustrated by associating her with a frump, this woman who's working all night and who's got a lascivious interest in things. The voice is a bit of a judgmental voice.
Yeah.
So ALP is turning into a frump.
But this piff puff poof is letter P plus I A U O. Maybe it's a variation of I O U. From that, yeah.
Where I owe you?
I owe you some money. Because you have I A U O. If you invert this, I owe you.
Where's that?
You have some debt with me.
No, but what line?
Some debt with you.
What specific line?
The piff, puff, puff, poof. This.
Oh,
if you put the P and the letter I A U O, there is no letter E.
What line?
I owe you.
Well, that's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's like the 11th and 12th line.
Changed the letters. I owe you became I A U O.
What line?
It's like 11th and 12th line.
Yeah, 11 and 12. P plus I, F, F. P, S, A plus A and F, F. P.
Lines 11 and 12, yes.
So you remove the F's. You have I, A, U, O.
It's a bit of a stretch.
That's like Duncan's great line. I may be going off on a limb here, but we're all on limbs.
We're
Well,
we're sawing the limb as we're on the
On the wrong side.
Yeah, it's like a Bugs Bunny cartoon, or it's one of those.
Doesn't Humpty sound like Humphrey an awful lot?
Well, that's a Humphrey Chimpton earworker, definitely.
Yeah,
He does have a hump.
the all-night work of the woman is hospitality for the people at the wake, and then towards the end of this line, because the eggs for the Breckers are for the Breckers come to mourn him.
Ah.
So that's why we've got she's cooking all night for the big wake breakfast once the sun comes up.
but who are you referring? Who is the Breckers?
No, it's breakfast.
Breakfast. Yeah.
I know it's
Breakfast.
breakfast, but were you insinuating, Keith, that Breckers stands for somebody?
Well,
She's
there's
breakfast for HCE.
There's a reference back to a wake and a hostess now for the wake. She's morphosed into someone hosting the wake and providing brekker for them, which is slang for breakfast.
Right.
Breckers.
Come to mourn.
In line 12, we always have the reference to the HCA fall. Empty shall fall.
Right.
Many times. So
You've
it's
actually
a recurrence of this.
And even if
Holy.
shall fall from the sea.
You've got a fairly cool syntactical ambiguity about whether it's the Iggs or the Breckers who've come to mourn him. So, an egg that's being cooked might mourn the broken shell.
Yeah. It's good, Keith. So let's go to that last sentence. So true by him. There's a lot, 3 lines. Anybody want to give us the gist of that last sentence in the first paragraph?
Sure. Going to go back one step. We passed over a wonderful word, beards boozleum. Joyce does this in Ulysses when he talks about the new blue Muslim, and that's kind of a variation on that. It's the word Jerusalem and probably a lot of other things. But I was intrigued by
Jerusalem, very good.
Now with extra facial hair.
That's right.
Baluzalum.
Kafusalum is a word that appears in a portrait in the first chapter.
Yeah, and that's a popular song, punning on Jerusalem.
What is Kafusalum? It's just a pun on Jerusalem?
There was a novelty song called Kafusalum. I'll put it in the chat if I can find it.
Kafoozalum. Kavuzalum. Yeah, amazing. But so true, that whole line. Anybody turn over the tie? Bruce, what do you think that line means, that last one?
Although I think it's basically she's brewing tea for the breakfast to come.
Yeah, the turnover a kind of loaf, and the tea is ready.
Well, tea is ready, but that getting back to Jack, in the Stella's journal, having tea was always a code word for sex, I think, dipping the tea bag into the water.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a tea bag in your cup? Or
you happy
to see me?
Okay, now we got come on over to my place. We'll listen to some smooth music. Cat Stevens. Okay, now
world.
Yeah. Now we got this whole new paragraph. She's on behavior right job for what kind of brandy is that?
Queen Anne's Bounty. That was something that Queen Anne had established for the relief of the poor.
Oh, so that's Queen Anne's bounty, fruiting for firstlings and
Yeah,
taking
Her time.
her time.
Well, yeah, well, first fruits and tithings are ways the church would collect their money.
We may take our review of the two mounds to see nothing.
I think Jack is about to say.
Oh, go ahead.
What's the general subject I'm going to talk about? Yeah, you guys are going too fast for me. Go back just a couple of lines. Catch sight of a hind, make sure, but you're cocked by a hen. So there we have more sexual references, and the word hen probably is hen, and that gets us back to the hen we saw earlier, poking around the midden.
Yeah, in the heap.
Very good, Jack. Yeah, I didn't mean to fly by too fast. So, you know about tantra sex. Take your time, dude.
I've had some experience actually.
A
little.
Yeah, moving on.
like Lotus.
Moving right along.
Lenny Bruce's last girlfriend, she lived in Venice. She was on a radio show. They were talking about sex, and she goes, "Oh, sex! I had that once."
Well, that doesn't Woody Allen says, sex and death, two experiences that happen once in a lifetime.
He also said something about he likes masturbating because at least he's making love to he's having sex with somebody he loves, which I think is a great line.
Yeah, don't put down masturbation.
The problem is Woody cannot make movies in America anymore. What's up with that?
Yeah, well, I don't want to get into that.
Okay. That we leave that for the New York Finnegan's Wake. They're obsessed with incest.
Obsessed with neurotic New York Jews. Yeah, why would that
happen? Okay.
He lived under the roller coaster in Coney Island.
Yeah, right.
Right.
That's it.
Or she steals, she's black. What do you
This paragraph is an overview of the city. The next
paragraph. You mean the new paragraph we're starting?
Yeah, it's an overview of the city.
The overview of Dublin?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, we can skip that and just go read the thing and we're done. Okay, no, we take our review of the two mounts to see nothing of the himples here as at elsewhere. Now he's why buy 6 and 7s?
It's a phrase that means confusion.
Well, it's weird because that's a phrase that appears in Richard II when Bolingbroke is displacing Richard II. I forget who's the character, but he's the one who's kind of trying to play both sides, and he's in this state of severe confusion.
Yeah, 6s and 7s means confuse. Like we're at 6s and 7s. I've never known why it means that.
Yeah, a great phrase though.
Yeah. I thought it must come from some kind of old card game or something.
I thought it meant crazy. 6s and 7s. It's like old Cockney speak.
But everything's disordered or chaotic. I think everything's.
That might be right too.
I know Mike Myers used it.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Coffee.
His parents are from Liverpool.
It's a common expression in Chinese, Luan Shi Ba Xiao.
Oh, really?
That means 6s and 7s?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Well, why?
Did we get it from the English? Or do we get that from them?
I don't know who got it from who. I just know that,
Someone should look into this.
Okay. You're appointed.
Yeah.
So Duncan, you're saying we got it from Wu?
Okay, here it is. It says at 6s and 7s is an English idiom used to describe a condition of confusion from a dice game. So it dates from the mid 1380s Shakespeare used it in 1595. Yeah, so it does. Oh, Gilbert and Sullivan used it.
In what play?
H.G. Wells used it. Okay, Gilbert and Sullivan and HMS Pinafore.
Oh.
The line goes, "Fair moon, to thee I sing, bright region of the heavens. Say, why is everything either at sixes or at sevens?"
Wow. Who knew?
And guess
Apparently, it's a dice game called Hazard. I looked it up too.
yeah. Well, the other
hazard actually means an unlucky toss of the dice, not just chance.
one more thing. Listen to this. Thornton Wilder used it in 42 in Skin of Our Teeth, which is a complete Finnegan's Wake wannabe. If you've ever seen it, it's an amazing play. And then our friend was in Mank, Oscar-nominated film.
Yeah.
Flo, our friend was in it, and Marion Davis uses the phrase to describe her mental state. There you go. The history of the world is all in the wake. We don't need no stinking Google. The wake is Google.
Well, we need Google to understand the wake.
No. You just like if you're poetry minded like Jerry Harp here, you just fake it by feelings. Feelings are more important than
fake until you make it.
Yeah, fake it. But feelings are more important than reality.
I've been faking it all my life. I haven't made it yet.
Keep plugging along,
Okay,
man.
don't give up.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate the encouragement.
I'm in the same boat.
No, there's a quote in the Wall Street Journal that on Saturday about Niels Bohr and poetry. It's amazing. I can't remember, but I'll send it out next time.
Did you just say the Wall Street Urinal?
Urinal.
Yes.
I thought you did. Okay.
You
Just want to
did,
make sure.
It's like Michael Moore say, it's the enemy's tip sheet. But if you're not
you
aware,
got that from Ulysses, right? The urinal and
That's right. Tip.
Weekly arch wiper. Yeah.
But if you're not aware of it, the Saturday Wall Street Journal has some of the best writing on new books. You know, it reviews books in it like the last issue does etymology on the word weird. So they really are great writers, and they're doing deep,
But are you saying it's a Wall Street Journal is a piss yellow journalism?
So they, as fate would have it, they did the etymology of weird.
Yes. Well, no, they did on purpose.
Ah, that was subtle.
Yes,
That was a pun. That was a pun.
Very good.
And you have sisters involved in that, right?
Yes. Three of them.
Three sisters.
Very weird.
Creepy and weird.
Yeah.
In the LA Times a couple of days ago, this guy, he wrote a book on all things weird, and he wrote an editorial on how terrible it was to call these people weird, because weird's something good.
Yeah.
And
It does have some. Well, no, I don't know if it's good, but it's not.
Well, it
it's
means
not
nonconformist.
I am sitting up here in Portland, Oregon. Our unofficial city motto is "Keep Portland Weird."
Yeah.
Okay.
It's same with Duncan's town. They say keep Austin weird. But
So MAGA is the new individualists. Right?
But in the big picture, Janice, and by the way, you mispronounced the wrong name for that newspaper. It's called the LA Crimes. But it's that you got to use catchwords in politics, and you got to realize that politics is a branch of the entertainment business.
But you can't broadcast that you're using those words.
Creepy is better. That's all.
I like creepy
That's the
myself.
bottom line.
Creepy is good too.
When they're wearing T-shirts that real men wear diapers, in support of Trump, I thought that was pretty weird.
Whoa, I saw that and I couldn't read it. Real men wear diapers?
Yeah. A
Yes,
lot of MAGA people were wearing those T-shirts.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. A little close to home for some of us there.
Okay, so we are somewhere after 6 and 7. So he, Gills, and Collins. There's a lot of words there that are need of people's feelings and opinions. Anybody?
Well,
Hughes.
Colleen is a nickname for Irish girls, Colleen.
Colleen, okay.
And he girls, seagull, but the word he, man, it's a masculine reference, I think.
Boys and girls.
Girls and boys.
Boys and
Well, but also two words for hill. Hugel is hill, and Colleen is hill in French.
Oh, very good. So
Cool.
the boys
That's
and girls.
McHugh.
Sitten and Arunt. What's that?
sitting around. The boys and girls are sitting around.
Sitting around, sense breached.
To my ear,
Sense
saying
breached.
it that way though makes it seem more. Yeah, and again, I'm just speaking from my own experience of the words. Sit in a room. It makes it feel more casual to me.
Yeah.
More relaxing in a way. And
And
then I'm going to take a moment real quick just to get away from the sex. Scent breached. I'm going to say that's a fart joke. Scenting one's breeches.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sense breached.
City breaches.
And how does Soam Pet
St.
poetry
Patrick.
go along with farting?
That I don't know.
Yeah.
The St. Bridge and St. Patrick are the patrons of Dublin.
Yeah.
Oh, St. Patrick. Good.
St. Bridget and St. Patrick. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
but some
Jerry,
pottery
there's-
also reminds you of the word pochine, which is the Irish homemade liquor pochine. Actually, they just legalized it again in Ireland. Pochine.
But Jerry, there is a lot of farting in the wake. And as Screaming Jay Hawkins says, don't eat beans, they talk behind your back.
Yes, I know.
And Blazing Saddles too.
Blazing Saddles. Okay, we got Toffee Tights. There you go. Sounds very Mel Brooksian right there.
Is it Toffen from Baptize, the first page of Finnegan's Way?
Yeah.
Oh.
Mish. Yeah, Mish. It goes with Mish Mish. Tough.
Mish. And what's playing Wharton's Folly mean?
Sir Thomas Wharton was a Lord Lieutenant of Ireland.
What's Wharton's Folly?
Well, Swift wrote a.
He built a magazine in Phoenix Park.
Yeah. Swift wrote a poem. He says, here's a proof of Irish sense. Here Irish sense is seen where nothing's worthy of defense. They build a magazine. So
very good.
But he quotes that in other place of the way.
You're talking about Jonathan Swift?
Jonathan Swift.
Yeah.
No,
so T30 on the Planko in the Perk.
Yeah. Tripartite. Tea Party.
Phoenix Park.
Tea Party, something like this.
On the Planko in the Perk.
We also have language here that suggests the scene in the park again. Boys and girls sitting around. And the language here actually sounds like Issy talking to herself, with the sort of fashion comment. This is very much like Issy's voice elsewhere in their swish-a-wish satins and their taffy tights.
Right. So it's hard to tell who's talking when. Is that true, Bruce? Or can we actually kind of make up who's talking when?
Well, we still have a we, like we had on the preceding 2 pages. Here we've got we reviewing in this paragraph.
Oh, we may see, but is we the reader or the author?
We always have this quarrel between the boys, Greeks and Trojans, and we also have Cassius and Brutus and Cassius, and always referring to the boys. They
are the boys.
It's metaphoric.
But it kind of sounds like a continuation of the crowd of people being taken through the museum. Now they're going out and seeing the sights. So they're reviewing the 2 mounds after they've been through the museum and come out.
Right. But in essence, we could be the author, could be the reader, or could be a character in the book. Is that right?
All three.
That sounds right to me.
Here comes everyone.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, oh, yeah.
We may see and hear
DEI, inclusion. So.
DEI. What's that mean, man? Tell me what
I
it means.
never heard that.
I see DYI, DEI.
He
Yeah,
said,
DUI, that's
how
more
do
the
you
speed.
define that?
How do you define that?
How do you define? I mean, and pretty clearly, he just didn't know what the letters stood
No.
for.
I think he knows. He was being disingenuous as usual.
You think so?
You think he knows anything?
I
think
don't.
he's smarter than people give him credit for.
Yeah, no, he is.
I think he's more evil than stupid.
More evil than stupid. It's good. Okay.
Joyce would appreciate that delta epsilon iota in ancient Greek, day, is an impersonal verb that means it's necessary. It has to be.
Has to be. Did you quoted this? Did Joyce write "Here Comes Everybody"?
In the
It's
wake?
in the book. It's in the book. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it in the wake?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
They refer to HCE as "Here Comes Everybody."
Yeah.
And by the way, there's a great little museum on St. Stephen's Green called Molly. Okay, Museum of Literature Island. It's a fairly new museum, but all the signs in the museum are references either to the Wake or Ulysses. And "Here Comes Everyone" is a sign on the wall, and it's pointing you towards I don't know, either the exhibits or the conference center. I can't remember which.
And it was
I thought it was wonderful.
Or the bathroom.
Wasn't "Here Comes Everybody" a title of one of the works in progress that appeared previous to the book as a whole?
Oh, really? Okay. For some reason, I thought it could have been Chesterton, and for some reason I just never Googled it. I just wanted to leap on the opportunity to ask since you quoted it.
You mean G.K. Chesterton?
Yeah.
Yeah. That guy's a major influence on McLuhan.
Oh yeah, he wrote his first book on Chesterton.
Yeah,
on Chesterton's letters.
Yeah. Okay, so then we're on to that line I thought made sense, but stand up Mycos, what's that?
Mycos.
Yeah, Mycos. Why are you guys pronouncing it Mycos? It's Mycos. Like the Mick is a slang term for Irishmen.
Is it Mycos?
When Michael Collins was assassinated and he was replaced by Richard Mulcahy, there were signs in Dublin, move over, make room for Dick, that they were going to assassinate his replacement. So the Irish Civil War was not a pretty thing.
So why does it say that and then it's followed by make straight for Minas? I mean, first of all, you have Planko in the park, then you have stand up Mycos, then you have make straight for Minas. I mean, it seems like there's some sort of
But Mick and Nick are always Sean and Shem. Yeah.
Oh, Mick and Nick. Okay.
Mick is also a dick. Stand up, Mycos.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Dublin slang, Mickey, penis.
Knuckles and muscles.
Excellent.
Stand up, Mickey. Okay, then make straight for Minas. Make strack. What's strack? Straight.
Sometimes there is make room for something. Is a recurrence, no? Make room for something.
Sounds like an old 50s TV show. make room for daddy.
Make room, make room, daddy.
My heart belongs to daddy.
My art belongs to Dada.
That's pretty good.
Isn't that a great? We had a t-shirt for that. Okay, by order Nicholas Proud. Still, there's some sort of through line there. Bruce, help us out. What's the through line from Blanco Park, stand up, make straight, by order?
What's the through line?
You know, where is there some sort of thing happening in those lines?
Again, this is feeling. This is not.
Help us, Obi-Wan Kenobi.
But when
These are the wrong droids.
When I go back to the beginning of this paragraph, it seems like water is receding. There are two mounds, which could be HCE's, but
There you go. Mhm.
The kids, the Hegels and Colleens, are just sitting around scent breached and some pottery. It's like a Rococo scene or something. There's an elaborate sex game being played here, but there's no
Huh?
sex. So the narrator is calling for stand up, get your penises erect and head women.
Dick was a stand-up guy.
Stand up proudly.
So you're saying the narrator's giving these commands?
Yeah, in my mind, that's the way I'm reading it.
Go ahead, Jack.
I'm just going to cheat just a little bit. The notes I have tell us that Nicholas Proud was the secretary of the Dublin Port and Docks Board in Joyce's time. So there's actually a real person he's talking about.
Nicholas Proud.
Nicholas Proud.
But that is interesting. So the narrator's giving these commands. May we see and hear nothing. That is the ultimate.
We may see and hear nothing.
We may see. Oh, I see. He's not saying may we see. Oh, I read it wrong.
You're looking at what you see may not be what you see.
Yeah.
But
What
to
may see and hear nothing. It's funny.
see,
That's the ultimate sense ratio shifting in the wake. We're using a medium that you use your eyes, but in essence, the communication comes through your ears in the wake.
Eyes are closed.
the motive of to see and hear is related to see is related to space, and hear is related to time. It's always the recurrent motive.
Where did you get that? You always say that, Decio, and I'm so impressed. But where did you get that? Wait,
the eyes, your senses, the eyes give you the idea of space.
Yeah.
And hearing, the hear gives you the idea of time.
Yeah.
After you talk it something, pass it some time, and started to talk. So the hear gives you the idea of time.
But I'm asking you, where did you get that? Did you read that, or did you hear it, or did
I
you
read somewhere. I read somewhere.
You read it. Yeah.
Our senses, we communicate with the environment with our senses. So the eyes gives the idea of space, and the ear gives this idea of time.
Yeah, neuroscientist came to our meeting once and he said that sight is the most dominant sense. But here, go ahead, Jerry.
Well, I just this is actually what I wrote my dissertation about, and it is based on the thought of one of my mentors, Walter Ong, and he talked about. He's got a great chapter in Interfaces of the Word called "I See What You Say: Sense Analogs for Intellect," and he talks about this throughout his writing. But he talks, for example, about how vision works by registering light diversely reflected off a surface. And so that's the idea of space, registers surfaces. And sound exists only when it's going out of existence. If I say nevertheless, by the time I get to the less, the never is gone, and it has to be gone, or it would all become a jumble. And so he says that sound is the time sense par excellence. And yeah, this I think in excess of 50% of the human cortex is devoted to seeing, and that shows in the abundance of metaphors, the sight metaphors we have for knowing. So I see what you say, I have an insight, and so forth. And sometimes they're mixed with tactile implications, like the in of insight. And there are very few but crucial sound metaphors for knowledge.
I hear you.
Yeah, I hear you. And that registers a kind of more inward, sympathetic kind of understand. Like if I say, I see what you mean, that's kind of more distant. But if you're telling me your troubles and I say, I hear you, that registers a greater closeness, a greater interiority.
Well, there is a tradition of, bards who were blind, so that the auditory sense was, I mean, like, Homer, Milton, and Joyce, I would say. And, in the Proteus section, he does have that line. He says, close your eyes and see. And then
Yeah.
he starts tapping along, and that's his experience of the world.
Proteus is related to space and time. Yeah.
What is?
Proteus.
Proteus,
Proteus.
yeah, definitely.
Space
Well,
and
yeah,
time.
the Nebanander and the Nakanander,
Yeah.
next to each other or after each other.
And time is related to counting. 1, 2, 3. And music. Music is also related to time. Each note has a time. And so you listen.
But Lewis Carroll said, you shouldn't beat time because he doesn't like that.
Yeah, but hold on, Jack, 1 second. That's one of our oldest members in our rate group, doesn't come anymore. Kyle, he's blind since birth. And he would say, and he listened to the radio religiously. He said, I saw a TV show last night. And he would say it literally, I saw it. No, he heard a TV show, but it's not the way you say it. I heard a TV show last night. So he would talk in the lingo that everybody else talked in. Okay, go ahead.
In Ulysses, we have a character that is blind. So we listen his talk, is a sound.
Yeah.
Time.
And well, Joyce also said, what the eye brings is nothing, as he was going blind and writing the Wake.
Yeah.
So it's a very auditory.
Yeah.
book.
Go ahead, Jack.
Two more hearing references. In Shakespeare's time, the playgoers didn't say they were going to see the play. They would say they're going to hear the play. And then the second thing is, I think I've read that hearing is the very last sense to go as you die. And when my wife was dying in my arms, I spoke to her, even though everything had stopped. And,
When my brother was dying, the nurses kept saying to us, keep talking to him. Hearing is the last sense to go.
Wow. How many minutes? Because Leary says that your body dies and then your mind keeps working for 7 minutes.
Yeah.
And so if you learn how to lucid dream, you can direct your path a little.
Yep, 7 more minutes.
Well, since the Wake is a dream book, also, I mean, Freud talked about how sounds, what you hear when you can close your eyes, but you can't close your ears, and so what you hear during the night becomes dreams.
Yeah, and it's amazing. Hold on, Bruce, 1 second. The amazing thing is humans are made with eyelids, but not earlids.
Right.
The fuck is that? Wow, what's going on there?
And there are no nose lids either.
No nose lid. You're right. I never thought of that. But in essence, you can cover your eyes, but stuff sort of seeps through, and you can cover your ears, but stuff still seeps.
But the sense of touch, there's no way, no way of covering the sense of touch.
You can't cover the sense of touch. That's good. Okay, Bruce, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, just to take this group back to where it
it's supposed to be.
Somebody take us back where we're supposed to be.
McLuhan basically got all of his ideas from this division of sight and sound that Finnegan's Wake plays with all the way through. The division between sight and sound is the division between Shem and Sean.
Yeah.
Or Nick and whatever. But and I remember from War and Peace in the Global Village, there's a quote. I don't know whether McLuhan wrote it, but there's a quote, "To the blind, all things are sudden."
Yeah, that's a great line.
Great quote.
But I don't know who said it. But
I think it's like a proverb. I don't think anyone said
his ideas from this idea that there's a sense ratio between seeing and hearing. Seeing is connected with the invention of perspective and putting things in space in the proper order, and hearing is kind of picking things out of a flow of time. You need both to complete the picture, but you look at a page of Finnegan's Wake, what you see is at first very confusing. If you try to puzzle it out and listen for the sense of the words together, they sometimes create a completely different picture from what you initially thought was happening in the paragraph.
Yeah, hold
According-
on, Dennis. Hold on, Decio. Just to address that, I just Googled it and it's hard to figure out. McLuhan doesn't always give his source.
No,
He
he
does sometimes, and then you don't know. It's interesting if anyone can really find like quote investigators. That's a great website to try to figure out who first said it. But go ahead, Janice, and then Decio. Go ahead. Thank you.
You're gonna all disagree, but I just think this is so visual, this book, and I'm more visual than auditory person, but I can't see that you get into the sound of it compared to when you look at it. When you look at it, to me, it's so multi-dimensional.
Yeah.
And when you hear it, to me, it's just flatter. It's
Oh,
just,
well, that's good, Janice, because he's tapping into the variety of human diversity. Because we look at books and we look at the letters, or it's like when MTV came out, we all went, why do you put pictures to the songs? We make our own pictures up in our head. So then kids grow up and they go and make up their new pictures and don't just think of the song as a video. So it's constantly ever changing. It's good that you said that. Okay.
I don't see how what I said has to do with what you said, but that's okay.
Yeah.
It's all right.
Yeah. Okay. But go ahead.
Did he hijack your thought?
It has to do with sex.
Yeah. Decio, go ahead.
According to Einstein, space and time is the same thing. And going back to Nibernander and Nashenander, Nibernander is related to space, means one next to the other, and the other is one after the other. The time, the space is outer sense, and the time is inner sense. Space is simultaneity, and time is succession. Space is sensation, and time is reflection. Space is painting, time is poetry. So eye and ear.
What's that?
Well, I think Bergson, that was one of his main ideas, is that the ocular sense had dominated the temporal sense, and so we tend to spatialize time. But Joyce has that great line in Proteus, walking through short spaces of time and through very short times of space. It sounds natural to say spaces of time, but times of space sounds weird.
So this is Einstein, 4 dimensions.
Yeah.
Of space.
Yeah. Weird, dude. Weird. Okay, so now we're going to go into these or phrases. We may see and hear nothing. That's it. We may see and hear nothing. That's the epitome of the wake right there. If you choose blah, blah, blah of the or blah, 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 or blah, 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 or of, I mean, what's going on in those next 4 lines?
So this is musical instruments. The bergamors, viola d'amour. The bergagambos, viola de gamba. Then we have bergons. No, we have bergincellis, violoncello. And then we have contrabasses, contrabass. And then bergons, violin. Musical instrument.
That's the Nacheinander.
But why is this whole listing of musical instruments when we're describing the sound, the town?
Related to time. Musical instruments are related to time.
Well, the landscape of Dublin, I mean, this describes parts of Dublin.
See,
that are laid out in space, but he's describing in terms of music, which is
so the hills, the many hills are related to space, and the musical instruments are related to time.
And the hills are alive with the sound of music.
Sound of music.
That's amazing you said that, because do you know how the experience of that movie changed? And people would go and watch it, and everybody would sing the whole movie from their seat.
Yes,
Like the
music.
Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Yeah, like
Rocky
Rocky
Horror
Horror
Picture
Picture Show. I
It's
mean,
a
can you
musical.
imagine watching Sound of Music with a whole bunch of people singing
And,
the whole
and when they start throwing rice at the thing,
The hills are alive with the sound of music.
da, da, da.
It took a guy from Brazil to sing it, and all us Americans. We're sitting here jerking off.
Hi,
Okay.
I'm Candy. Did you just call me?
Okay, Penny, mute. Oh,
I know I've got to mute. I'm sorry. I can't find it.
that's
Oh,
all
dear.
right. Okay, so
Or
now
can
we
we
got.
start taking the conversation?
And so now we got this through. Well, you said it right there, Donacio. Has its several tones, and every trade has its clever mechanics.
Yeah, but in line 29 we have ECH. Every crown has
Has what? Oh,
line
HCE.
59.
HCE.
ECH.
Yeah, they said it's like HCE.
So you get it, Jerry. That's what he does. He plants HCE. Here comes everybody. Humpty Chuck.
I get, yeah.
Throughout, he just plants this little cluey thing, like what's
and
that?
ALPs. Yeah.
An ALP.
Permutations, combinations, and arrays.
Yeah, permutation and combination.
Which kills me, because in Dublin, when we read the Wake in Dublin, Nastasia, one of the hosts, will say HCE, but when she gets to ALP, she'll go ELP. She won't say ALP.
It's hard to say.
Yeah.
A lot of
What
Irishmen
is
will pronounce H as H. My Irish-born grandmother did that H. I don't know whether it changes the meaning, but think about that when you see the reference.
Yeah, that's good.
Sorry, I interrupted somebody over here.
No, it's how we mispronunciate. I mean, that's the epitome of the Wake, is everybody pronounces the Wake words. Like today in Dublin, these three women were just ripping through the Wake like they were professional Wake readers. And they never really read it before, because we're too conscious of reading the Wake. And they're like just sort of like, well, I'm going to show off my reading chops because I know how to pronounce syllables.
Well, you know what Wallace Stevens says, one's ignorance is one's greatest asset.
Well, it makes me think too of T.S. Eliot's idea that meaning is the hunk of meat that the burglar
that's
to the dog while he
throws before Cerberus. Yeah,
that's huge in
Cerberus.
It's called the watchdog of your mind.
Yeah,
When you go to Rob,
I would be. I mean, I think we need to, as you were saying, Jerry, we need all these glosses and all the information that people bring to it. If people would be up for it at some point, I'd be interested if we just did the read through and then began by putting the text aside and just saying, well, here's what I'm feeling, here's where I am, here are the associations that come to, just to see what it's like as an experiment, and then we can do the more analytical work.
no, well, we've done that for 28 years. That's what I'm always
Yeah, that's the Jerry Fialco approach.
These smart asses who know everything always interrupt me.
But if you believe that the Wake is,
isn't it?
It makes it sound legit if you're studying it like with meaning.
Yeah, if you believe that Wake is
No,
music,
and I
which is a
want
good
that.
theory,
Yeah, the Wake is music, Jack. You're right.
then there's something to be said for just kind of blowing through it and having an emotional experience to it,
And
emotional reaction.
Igor Stravinsky said music means nothing. And probably music is the most meaningful art form, but you can't put it into words. Well, yes, you can. You can be a music critic. And that's
Well,
why
you can
literature.
convert it to mathematics. Mathematics is what music you can hear, music can see. Something, there's a quote like that
And then you
somewhere.
exactly, Jack, because Thelonious Monk said music is math.
Yeah.
That was part of the old
Right,
quadrillion.
lyrics, that's meaning.
Because it's time, is related to time, it's related to counting.
But I just reviewed one of my music lectures, and Stockhausen had a piece of music where everybody's in the auditorium, and a helicopter goes over the auditorium, and that's the score of hearing the helicopter outside the building. That's funny. I mean, come on. I mean,
That's great.
who thought up that? At least because Stockhausen is there's only three people I believe could be from outer space. Stockhausen, Sun Ra, and the guy who sang 96 Tears. Question
No.
mark.
I want to know.
The
I want to
organist,
know how many.
organist on 96 Tears.
Yeah, no, these are three people who say they're from outer space. I kind of believe they probably are.
The question mark and the Mysterians, right?
That's
That's
him,
it.
Rudy Martinez.
Well done.
It's one of the
I want
first.
to know how many people at the Stockhausen concert got visibly upset by the helicopter interfering with their concert.
I mean, that's why John Cage loved The Wake. McLuhan says you should do something with The Wake. But we're coming to the close here after mechanics. Then you got another Decio is good. Harmonical has a point of its own. Now, who's Olaf? Olaf's on the rise, Ivor's on the lift.
Those are also streets, I believe, in Dublin.
Okay, strict.
Olaf Road, Ivor Street, Citric Place.
Citric's place between them. But all they are all.
By the way, those are also Viking names, aren't they? So there's, kind of reference back to the founding of Dublin itself.
But what is this? But all they are all, they're scraping along to sneeze out a likelihood.
A livelihood.
Who's the they there? But all they are all.
Isn't HC, here comes everybody?
Olaf and Ivor.
Who's the they there, Bruce?
Everybody that we can see in the scene or not hear about.
Right. Okay. All they are all scraping along to sneeze out a likelihood that will solve and salve life's Robulus Rebus. What's a
Robulus Rebus, Romulus and Rebus.
Romulus and Rebus, yeah.
What is it?
The founders of Rome.
Founders of Rome.
Romulus and Remus, yeah.
Oh, but rebus is also a symbolic representation.
Well, Freud said that dreams are Rebus. I think Lacan said that also.
But I miss what you said, Jerry. Reba could
It's
also
a symbolic representation. Like you've got objects that if you say what they are, they form words. That's one example of a kind of rebus.
Almost like your mind is playing charades with you at night.
Yeah. So so if that's one of the Remus was not one. He died. Romulus was the
Shouldn't have jumped over the wall.
But that's a funny word you brought up, Roy. Charades is what Joyce does with language.
Mm-hmm.
He's doing charades to us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We're kind of
sounds like
1,000 nights in one night.
That's I was teaching at Santa Monica College where Janice taught. You still teach there, Janice?
Nope.
And you had a long career there. And this student told me this was very early, many years ago, like Google started. when you put in Google and it says, "Do you mean?" They said if you put "a white man stole my car," it would come up. Do you mean a black man stole my car? I mean, and that is so weird because as soon as it becomes urban myth, then it propagates itself. So you don't know if that happened once and then people made it up or what.
Mhm.
But we tend to believe Google.
Sounds plausible.
But it's also we tend to believe the wake. And I think it's believable. I think it's okay. So hopping around his middle like kippers on the griddle. What's kipper? Go ahead, Keith.
Well, before we move on from Romulus Rebus, it's important to look at that it starts with life's Romulus Rebus. So Romulus and Rebus are brothers that have a conflict where one dies. So that's also Cain and Abel, and that's Shem and Sean. And Rebus is a riddle that's done in the form of pictures of things. You put the words from those things together and you get some kind of statement. It's actually from the Latin. Rebus in Latin just means with things. So life's Romulus Rebus is we're surrounded by stuff in conflict and it's a puzzle that we're trying to figure out. I think that's a really nice compression of the idea that we are, swimming through chaos, doing the best we can. That is a bit like reading the wake.
Also to solve life's Romulus Rebus. I mean, instead of solving, you were salving, which means to
yes.
make healing, and Robulus means we're continually being robbed of something.
Well, and we're doing our best to keep each other well through it. It's mutual aid. We're salving for each other, but also Robulus might have Rabelais in it, and Rabelais is the writer of excess of every kind, including verbal excess. It's very hard to find a seam, a meaning element with Robulus. The best I've seen is Rabelais, but that's pretty far fetched.
Does Rabelais use rebuses in his work?
No, but he is the most fantastical word spinner of all. There's actually a translation by a fairly crazy Scottish man of Rabelais into English, into Scots English, who really got into it and made it like a third longer by inventing even more words that were not in Rabelais to start with. So
you mean wait, let me clarify this, Keith. You mean he took Rabelais and he expanded in a Rabelais way.
Yes. Imagine someone translating Finnegan's Wake and really getting into some of the lists and catalogs and just sort of creating more stuff.
Yes, who did that?
Joyce was not enough. We got to add more.
You know who did? You know who did that, Keith? Joseph Beuys, the artist. He wrote a new chapter to Finnegan's Wake. So that's an amazing accomplishment, because one time I took the Finnegan's Wake reading club to Silver Lake across town in a bookstore, and everybody was reading their 2 lines. And this one woman started, after her 2 lines, she just started babbling and making up her own Finnegan's Wake on the spot. I goes, hey, you get it.
Speaking in tongues.
You're speaking in tongues.
Speaking in tongues. But Roy, you got ESP. It must be in that the MDA I slipped in your wine. It's kicking in because I just put rebus in etymology, in etymology online, and it defines the word, and then the next word after it related is charades. So it was amazing.
Credit for that.
That works.
Romulus and
Remus. Like a real simple rebus is to take the number 4 and then draw a little B after it. So you have a B4.
before.
Mhm.
Yeah. And also, what Keith said was words evoke more than their meaning. So we can read into words more than what etymology tells us that word is. And that's what the wake is. He literally reads more into words than the word means on
Well,
occasion.
to grab Elliot and bring Elliot back into the conversation, it's also saying that words cover up more than they mean.
Yeah, it's both. You're right. Yeah.
Romulus and Remus, they were twins. And we have a maybe is a reference to Shen and Shaw.
Oh, definitely.
Mhm.
But also, T.S. Eliot said, when I talk to you, I got to use words, which is not true. You can talk without words. You can do hand gestures, you can whistle, you can dance. But it is interesting because we think when we talk, you got to say words. Like my favorite word being from the Midwest is nuh-uh.
Nuh-uh.
Who invented that word? Nuh-uh.
Nuh-uh.
I says, that's Wakian.
How about Aya? That's from Maine. Aya.
Yeah. Mhm.
Well, if Ohio is Mungry, Jeet, Sup. Are you hungry? Did you eat?
Gee,
What's up?
it's better than Jew eat.
That's right, Jewy. That's Woody Allen all over again.
You eat.
Not did you eat, Jew eat. What do you mean?
You eat. That's
So do you
great.
pronounce the capital of Kentucky as Louisville or Louisville?
Yeah, I don't know. It's like we called Ypsilanti in Michigan Ypsitucky.
Just for the record, Kentuckians pronounce the capital of their state Frankfurt.
That's
Kentucky
terrible.
Kentucky's land of Lincoln.
That's good.
Okay.
No, Illinois is land of Lincoln.
Illinois, yeah, you're right. Illinois is
Illinois,
land of Lincoln.
Illinois.
Right,
But
right.
he was from Kentucky.
Well, he grew up, he spent some time in Indiana too.
Yeah.
Okay, we're on the last two lines, and then we're going to read the whole page. Three people. Oh, as he lays dormant from the macroborg of Holdhard. What's that?
The giant Finn McCool is sleeping. His head is in Holtz, and his feet is in the magazine. Magazine Pied de Poudres magazine.
Say that again. His head's where?
The head of HCE is in Holtz. Holdhard. Holtz head.
Oh, that.
Holtz head.
Mhm.
And his feet is in feet is pied de poudre. His feet in French is in the magazine. Poudre is related to powder. Is for the guns, obviously.
Feet of powder. It means
Powder,
feet of
yeah.
clay.
Magazine. The magazine of the explosives.
Say it again, Jack. What did you say?
Well, feet of powder, I guess literally, but feet of clay is I think the
Feet of
reference.
clay.
Yeah.
I see.
Mhm.
Yeah.
What is the magazine? We have magazine around here.
The magazine was a building that was built to hold ammunition and
Ammunition
gunpowder.
has powder. Yeah, the powder for
The
the guns,
magazine.
for the cannons. And the magazine is in the Phoenix Park.
Mhm.
What's the relation between magazine that holds ammo
Holtz is
and
the
a
Holtz
magazine
head.
that you read? How did those?
Holtz head. Holtz head is the head of the giant.
That's where HCE head is.
Dublin is related to the giant, the dormant giant. The head of the giant is the Holtz head. Where is
Yeah,
the light?
and the Wellington Monument is his erection.
Yes.
Yeah, the monument is his penis. Penis.
Back to
Yeah.
Jack's
And
main.
the leg and the foot are in the magazine. Magazine in the Chapelizod.
Okay.
in Keith. Go
Second
ahead.
in a fortress is a fortress.
Fortress, yeah. Go ahead, Keith.
On a sort of fishy theme, I like the transformation of all the hills we just had cataloged above this into a bunch of kippers hopping around on a griddle.
On a griddle, yeah.
As if which is basically over HCE's stomach as he makes part of this landscape. You know, they're hopping around his middle like kippers on a griddle.
Well, what is
That's also Phil the Fluter's ball. I don't know if
Right,
you want hopping around the middle like trippers on
Yep,
the
yep.
what's a kipper?
It's
Oh
fish.
my
It's
gosh.
fish.
Small fish.
Oh, is
Fishing.
that what they have in Venice every year? Grunions, like little
No,
fish?
no. Mm-mm.
Different?
The Brits eat kippers for breakfast.
Yeah.
We have a yum kipper.
And Yom Kippur, that's right.
Different
So,
kipper.
A little bit different, yeah.
But let's bleed into page 13 just for the heck of it. Behoove this sound of Irish sense.
Well, that's that poem I was trying to recall by Swift. You know, behold a proof of Irish sense. Here Irish wit is seen. Where nothing's left that's worth defense, they build a magazine.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So it's really naming this thing, behoove this sound of Irish sense. So he's sort of saying, I'm making sense here. I'm making Irish sense. Behold.
Then he says regally, which means really.
Really?
Yeah, I'm making Irish sense, which makes no sense.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
here English might be seen. That is really good. It is so self-reflexive.
Mm.
He's telling you what you do. Okay, Penny, you got the book in front of you? Why don't you read a third, and then when you get to a third, you go next. And then we'll have Jerry, you read the second third, and then Janice, you read the third. So when you're done, Jerry, you just say next whenever you feel you've done a third. So Penny, you got to unmute.
Penny has to unmute.
And then here's the other thing. Be aware now, for the people who aren't reading, is really a chance for you to look at the text as it's being spoken out.
Or hear the text, right?
Or hear the text, because usually you're paying too much attention, like I do. When do I read? Am I up next? And you're trying to be conscious of playing this game, where in this sense you can just lose yourself a little more by just
not so much space and more time.
Yeah, that's it. Okay, Penny, whenever you're ready, go ahead.
Okay. For in the byways of high improvidence, that's what makes life worth leaving. World's a cell for sitters to sit in. Let young women run away with the story, and let young men talk smooth behind the butler's back. She knows her night's duty while Luntum sleeps. Did you save any tin? Says he. Did I what? With a grin, says she, and we all like a married Anne because she is mercenary. Though the length of land lies under liquidation, flute, and there's ne'er a hairbrow nor a high eye bush on this glopus phase of Hershef. What if Welter she'll loan a Vesta and hire some Pete and sarch the shores her cockles to heat, and she'll do all a turf woman can to piff the business on, to puff the blaziness on, puff, and even in humptied shell fall frumpty times as awkward again. In the beards of Busolum of our grand remonstrancers, there'll be eggs for the breckers come to mourn him, sunny side up with care. So true is it that there's where's a turnover of the tay is wet too, and when you think you catch sight of a hind, make sure you're caught by in. Shall I go on, or
Oh, that's it. Next, go ahead, Jerry.
Then, as she is on her behaviorate job of quaintance bandy, fruiting for firstlings, and taking her tithe, we may take our review of the two mounds to see nothing of the himples here at elsewhere by sixes and sevens, like so many Hegels and Colleens, sit in a runt, scent breeched and sans patrique in their swish-a-wish satins and their taffetaff tights, playing Wharton's Folly at a tree purty on the planko in the perk. Stand up, Mickos, make straight for Minas, by order Nicholas Proud. Next.
We may see and hear nothing, if we choose, of the short-legged Bergens or off Cork Hill, or the Bergamoors of Arbor Hill, or the Berga Gombols of Summerhill, or the Baron Sellies of Misery Hill, or the country Boss Bergonas of Constitution Hill, though every crowd has its several tones, and every trade has its clever mechanics, and each harmonical has a point of its own. Olaf's on the rise, and Ivor's on the lift, and Citric's placed between them. But all they are, all they're scraping along to sneeze out a likelihood that will solve and salve life's robocious rebus, hopping around his middle like kippers on a griddle. Oh, as he lays dormant from the macroborg of Holdhard to the microberg of Pied de Pod, behold this.
Very good. Does anybody have any beautiful reading? Thank you. Does anybody else have any observations from going over it again? One I noticed was Summerhill. I mean, that was a big moment in my life when that book came out and taught us that there's alternative ways to educate people. And that really stood out for me. Anybody else observe anything else on this last reading?
Well, just that the little hills have become two mountains towards the end. They become Shem and Shan. And it's also, there's a kind of visual metaphor of a sex act that's happening there from Hoth Head down to the toes in Phoenix Park.
This is just a stylistic point, but I'm very taken by the complex mixture of multisyllabic words and very short, simple words. There is, I mean, comparing the text to music before, and it is like this elaborate musical score, and just the sound of it. I get carried away with, which is why when other people are reading, I like to just put the book aside and close my eyes.
Yeah. Hold on, Keith. One really quick thing is it took me 28 years. I just realized like last week that the wake has lines that make sense. And that's the dynamic, is that he shifts between lines that make sense and lines that are different. So it really stands out more when you get a sentence that makes sense. Okay, go ahead, Keith. Sorry.
Well, and to follow up on the comment before, we don't quite finish the thought at the end of the page because it goes on to behold the sound of Irish sense. So there's a reference back to how this has all been sounding at the end, and a kind of pun in that thought Irish sense has a sound. There's a sound of Irish sense here, because we're not just saying sound Irish sense, which would be what the editorialist would be defending, but it's rather the sound of Irish sense. And there's a lot of ways to go with that.
Yeah.
Like,
go ahead, Jerry. I'm sorry.
Well, Robert Anton Wilson, you go on YouTube and watch him read it. He's like, Bruce does it. You read it with what do you call that? An Irish what? Bro,
sort of a thick Irish accent. Yeah,
a thick Irish accent. And then when we heard that woman at Sweeney's, and she's from Mississippi, and she had a heavy Southern accent, it was like astounding how well the wake came across with that kind of accent. So go ahead, Jerry. What were we going to say?
I was just going to say just what Keith said just made me think that, yeah, there is a kind of, I don't think it's singular. There are sounds of Irishness. As you were pointing out, Jerry, there are sounds of Midwesternness. I'm from the Midwest too.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I think, there are sounds, there are distinctive rhythms of trust and affection and things like that, that we can key into, I think sometimes without necessarily getting a paraphrasable content, but hearing those rhythms.
Yeah. It's it's what that we can never nail down what language and words do with language and words, but we can keep trying. And Edna O'Brien just died. If you haven't read all the obituaries on her, it's been amazing. And she wrote a book on Joyce that I thought was amazing. If you haven't read it, it's very simple. I mean, it's sort of her consolidating all the other people who wrote about Joyce, but it's worth checking out.
What's it called?
It's just called James Joyce by Edna O'Brien. Yeah. So thank you, people. It was really a joy and a pleasure. I am honored to spend this time with all of you, and I look forward to next month.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Happy trails.
Yes.
Sarah, what's for dinner?